Hey everybody, welcome back to Human Reaction, your weekly source for independent commentary on cultural news and politics, where it's always our mission to arm you with the tools that you need to cut through media misdirection and resist the mono-narrative. Today we have a very special show. Kyle, what are we talking about?
Well, first, before we get into it, I just want to let our audience know, if you haven't seen our live stream of the presidential debate that we did last night, everybody that joined us, thank you for coming. You made the chat super enjoyable for a rather underwhelming debate. And anybody that hasn't seen it, it's up on our YouTube right now. CNN hasn't struck us down yet, at least. So if you're still planning to watch the debate, you can come watch it alongside us. But yeah, Joe, why don't you introduce our special guest today?
Absolutely. Well, we are honored to have a friend and a very incredible person, Vicky Ritcher, with us today. She is a distinguished German SpecOps PsyOps veteran, now working as an independent investigative journalist. Vicky, thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you for having me, and I'm fine. How are you?
Doing great. So when we got to meet at the LNC, you had a number of really interesting stories for us. And I really wanted to dig into your history and your career and understand a little bit more about what it is that you did with the German military. Do you want to take us back and kind of walk us through your career and sort of your history?
I joined the German military in 2008, and I had the honor to join the Special Operations Unit for PsyOps. And yeah, it's a very interesting and eye-opening field to have the chance to be a soldier, but also to look behind the curtain, what happens with propaganda, how to make propaganda, how do you create a conspiracy theory, how you create events like false flags, or also what is war journalism? What are the important things for doing war journalism? And I had a very, very interesting 8.5 years in my service, and I would do it again. Not right now. I would not fight for the German army for fighting Ukraine, with Ukraine against Russia. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. But yeah, I would not help my army now, because I don't believe in this scenario, what we are playing there right now. But I left the German army 2016 because of medical discharge, because I have PTSD and disability, what I got through my service. And after that, I finished my psychology university degree, and I started doing neurofeedback and biofeedback. So like totally different to what I did in the military. And then COVID hit 2020, and I saw how our government did the same stuff, what we did with Afghanistan and Kosovo, to our own people. And I didn't got along with that. And I said, no, that's not how we should do it. And after having an oath to prevent and defend the German people and the constitution of my country, I said, okay, I want to be active. And I started doing journalism again, more into the investigative part. And I started exposing the lies around the COVID machinery and the agenda. And I was one of the only journalists who went from every protest all over Europe. Like I was in Vienna, Madrid, Barcelona, Paris, Toulouse. I was in Rome. I was in all over Germany, Munich, Berlin. I was in Hamburg. I was in London. I was in Hungary, like Budapest. And I was in Bucharest. I was in Warsaw, in Poland. So I did a live streaming from there, and I tried to show the world. I did it in English and German, that it's not only a tree-hugging German group who are crazy and wearing an Alemion hat who are standing up for freedom. No, it's actually a whole Europe. And the governments didn't want us to unite, because united we were too strong for them. And that put me on a little no list of the government. They didn't like that. And also they put me and my daughter on an Antifa hit list. And in 2021, after we had to leave Germany because the threats against my daughter went too far, we left Germany to go to Spain. And while I was in Spain, I got the invitation to interview Jair Bolsonaro in September 2021, the sitting president of Brazil. And he invited me to go to Brazil and spend 10 days with him and his administration and do interviews and talk with him about what's really going on in Brazil, what is his ideas, and make kind of a fact check from the mainstream media, because mainstream media in Europe, they declare him as a little Trump, the little brother of the devil. So it was my job it was my hope to shine a light on the truth, how he really is. And I had the chance to get really, really good interviews.
Very cool. Wow.
There's so many different directions we could take this now.
I know. I want to go back to sort of towards the beginning where you said it was really interesting to learn about how conspiracy theories were formed or how false flag events were perpetrated. Did you take part in events like that, or can you share with us if you did?
What I can say, I learned the tactics to see if there are one, and I can say that I'm trained to help making them happen. If this makes sense.
Absolutely. Well, so I guess then you would have a bit of insight in terms of, as additional events have happened, you have the tools necessary to sort of look at those and say, okay, well, this is one or has the signs of one, and this one probably is authentic. Are there things that have happened recently that you could point to and say, oh, that was definitely a false flag or something like that?
Like, I can tell you what I did in Germany while the lockdowns were. So I helped the freedom movement to see false flags and agent provocateurs while we had our protests. Like, the German government tried to frame us to be far-right extremists and violent. So every time when our group of protesters, peaceful protesters from the middle of the society, like fathers, mothers, grandparents, just wanted to see their children free and not have to wear a mask or get forced to get a vaccine, they didn't cover it with the media. They didn't even care. But every time when you saw our mainstream media camera team puts out their camera and starting to film, okay, in the next 2 or 5 minutes, some very German, very Nazi, cliche-looking people would show up and would start trouble with the police, and then they would hold the camera totally on that. But when the police committed police violence against us, like even they choked me and punched me against the wall while I was reporting from events in Germany. Like, you have to think about a German journalist in Germany reporting, having kind of a First Amendment, and having press credentials, getting choked and punched against a wall and punched on the floor from a policeman.
Wow.
For saying
that is incredible.
And like, nobody filmed that. That was fake news. That never happened. But when the agent of provocateurs came, they were, that's you guys, so you are bad. And I trained the freedom movement leaders to see that kind of stuff in forehand. And that was what the government didn't really like about me, I guess, that I used their training for a better cause.
Absolutely. You could see through their tactics because you understood them from the inside.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah. So something that might be helpful for the audience is this word PsyOp. Mm-hmm. It has become something that a lot of people just kind of use now. They throw it on everything. Is the word overused, and like, or not? Is it, it might not be overused. Maybe a lot of things really just are PsyOps that everybody's just kind of pointing to. And like, what actually is a PsyOp? Like what is the mechanics of it? What is this, and how is it kind of influencing our everyday life, I guess? So,
one word, what is overused are black swan events right now. That's what I'm
Black swan event.
Like, but so a PsyOps, we are surrounded by PsyOps. We can't even go out of the house without PsyOps. Like, PsyOps is also marketing. When you listen to the radio, when you watch TV, and Pfizer shows you the best anti-heart attack pill, you only have to take that one. That's PsyOps. Marketing is PsyOps, but it's white PsyOps. So you can make a difference between white PsyOps, gray PsyOps, and black PsyOps. Black PsyOps was very much promoted in the Second World War. Like when they declared the Jews as the enemy, they said we didn't lost the war when already we had so much killed soldiers on the Ostfront. They still said, hey, nobody is dying there, but everybody knew that people are dying or soldiers are dying there. So that's kind of a PsyOps, or going to other countries and declaring a state of what your CIA is sometimes doing, coming to a country, creating a situation to make chaos, and out of chaos you can create a situation which serves you, for example, the CIA better or America better, so they can implement a politician or a group of people who are helping your intentions. So that is also a PsyOps. So I think PsyOps is not really too much used, but people don't really understand the good and the bad about a PsyOps, because PsyOps can also be good. Like when you do advertising, or what we did in Afghanistan, we tried to motivate the children in Afghanistan, the young boys, not joining the kids' army. So when we were in Afghanistan, we tried to motivate the children, mostly the young boys, not to join the kids' army with making comics or something and saying, hey, if you give us your gun, we give you a school book so you can learn something. And education is much more better than killing people. Like, this is white PsyOps. So totally. PsyOps can also be very good. It's just it's like a gun. It's a weapon. It's a tool. And you can misuse tools, or you can use tools for something good. And right now, or what happened around COVID, or what is for people really good to see since COVID, is that our governments use those tools against us for a not good reason, and not for helping us, no, for make us weaker, the people weaker and more dependent to them, or even enslave us.
Absolutely. You know, I'm thinking of, when you mentioned comic books for kids, I was thinking of like Stephen Colbert doing like the dancing needle thing on his show, you know, to try to encourage people to get the jab or whatever. Or like, you know, even with Ukraine, the way they sort of frame some of the things that are going on with the war in Ukraine around, oh yeah, like the Ukrainian military, like early on, you know, they're doing great, like they're making advancements, when there were, you know, news reports coming out saying like they were just getting absolutely demolished on the battlefield. And you know, it's interesting because it seems like there's a shelf life to a PSYOP potentially, particularly in this era of independent journalism and media, where there are ways of getting the truth out. They have a limited window of time that they can actually really influence people and keep them believing that that's the real narrative, because eventually the truth comes out. Do you find that to be true?
Yes. So the problem with nowadays journalism is that we lost the real purpose of our journalism job. Like we are not journalists anymore, or in the mainstream. So we are a propaganda unit. So we get the message from our government, our Orwell kind of agency, and they send us, oh, that's the message. You have to make it the message in a fear porn. You make it so crazy, make it so fearful that people are afraid to die. And then we jump in and we give you a solution. We give you the core. So we create this monster with our media. Our journalists create the monster, and then the government can jump in and say, hey, we're helping. We are giving you 5 more years to live, but you have to give up your freedom. Like, this is the strategy, what is going on right now. And real journalism should actually be, look at what is the government doing, seeing on both sides, not just listen to one side and then give the facts unfiltered. That means with no opinion. It's not important what I think about the event. It's not important what you think about the event. It's important what happened. And then you give out what happened, And if you really want to give your opinion out, you say, at this point, this is my own opinion. This is what I think about it. And then I tell that, but people still have the chance to get all the information, all the facts, and then they can create their own opinion, decide with all facts what they want to believe. This is what journalism should be, not what we have right now.
It's true, but that's just too dangerous, right? You can't have people thinking for themselves. That's not going to be good for the narrative or for the establishment, is it?
No, sadly not. Even our so-called educated society or part of the society, everyone who has a degree now is actually more sleeping and more in a narrative and more indoctrinated than someone who is actually just a blue-collar person or is working on the field as a farmer or something, because they don't even have time to listen to that BS, what they bring around. And people who go to college, they have time. They want to experiment themselves. They're listening to all those interesting and fancy ideas of those professors who probably never had anything really going on in their life, but they read a lot of books, and then they read probably the wrong books, like Karl Marx and his crazy ideas, and said, hey, yeah, that sounds cool. And then you think, okay, if you see Karl Marx and his ideas, it never worked. Like, this book is probably over 200 years now.
Something like that,
Yeah.
Yeah, 150 or so, I think 1850s, 1870s, so somewhere around that time, so maybe 130 years. But it didn't work. And then we had a whole war about it. Like, we had the Bolsheviks killing the Russian Tsar family. And then we have the Russians or the UdSSR trying to overcome Europe, and we had the Cold War. And now we have China with its communism combined with capitalism. So you see, even China didn't really work. It works out. So they get a little bit of capitalism in it. But it's nice to read about it, and the idea is nice, but it's not doable. But when you are 21, you come directly from high school, you haven't seen anything in your life, you're just free, you're allowed to drink your first beer in America, you're allowed to go on a party, your mom is not in the back of satelliting you all the time. And then you hear all those interesting ideas, and yeah, that's actually working, that should be working. And then you be there 6 years and you only are in this bubble. It's normal that you get indoctrinated, because the thing with American youth or with the American youth is you don't really look out of the box. Like, you still think, yeah, we are the police of the world, and we are the land of the free, and we do everything right, and we just save the world, and we go everywhere to bring the idea of democracy. But the idea of democracy is only good when we bring the idea. So your idea is not that good as my idea. And they grow up, get educated about this whole idea of, the knowledge is important. But they don't really see the other world. Like, they never visit third world countries, or they never visit Europe or Germany or France. So the thing is that people going into college and getting all those philosophical ideas, they're not practical. But
Totally. Do you find that that's unique to the United States? I mean, because just, thinking of my perception of what German, culture might be, it's very orderly, it's somewhat strict. It seems like, there could be a similar dynamic there, although you have so many other countries right around you, you have a lot more access to, the variety of European culture. Do you find that's unique to the United States, that like it's sort of insulated from the world, or we're so used to being sort of this like figurehead or the leader of the free world, in a sense, that we don't have to bother with understanding what other cultures are doing or sort of absorbing those things?
So the problem with the German people is that we are totally the different kind of. We have the same problem, but from a different angle. So I grew up, I got educated with the feel of guilt. Like, Germans are the reason for every bad. Like, you started 2 times a war, you are horrible, you are racist, even thinking about anything pro-Germany. Germany first is racist, it's Nazi. And so we grew up with the idea that being German is not really a thing to be proud of. So we have, but we still have these values of, yeah, we have to be very on the point. We have to be very strict. We are good workers. We are good. We listen to orders very well because we like, as in that kind of idea, a very easy life. Like, okay, you listen, and then you get along, and everything works. So we are indoctrinated too, and in our universities, it's also that idea of indoctrination. But in our indoctrination is the part we really didn't have the fight of killing patriotism, what you have right now. So America grew up with the idea, yeah, we love our country. We are the one country under God. We are the land of the free because of the brave. So all that great patriotism we didn't really had in Germany. Like, we lost that, or we had to lose that. We had it a little bit when we got united again in the late 80s and the beginning 90s. But after that, it was like, okay, you're still under martial law. You're still the bad people. It's still the history, and don't ever forget the history. So we got indoctrinated since the beginning after Second World War. And
that's interesting because...
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say it's interesting because it seems like there is a degree of nationalism that is coming back in right now, especially with a lot of the populist movements that are popping up all over Europe. There is that movement as well within Germany with the AfD. What are your thoughts on that movement? Is that a positive expression of nationalism? And, you know, has the country sort of, is it moving beyond sort of some of the World War II, you know, stories that are sort of that provide a lot of guilt for Germans?
So we're not even allowed to say that is a nationalism movement. So we are only allowed to say AfD is a conservative movement, because when we would say it's a national or nationalism movement, it would be too close to a Nazi. Then it could be already forbidden by the law because it's anti-Semitism. We already would, even saying, yeah, I'm a nationalist, then you are a Holocaust denier, so you go to jail. So this is a very fine line what we have in Germany, and I think the AfD is a good movement. We have rotten apples in that too. We have a controlled opposition in that party too, but you will always have that because the European Union structure is built on controlled opposition. You would never be able to get that far in the parliament if you're not being kind of controlled, because that's how the elite wants us to play. They give us the idea of having a decision. They give us an idea of, hey, you could do anything. Go every 4 years and sign a little paper and put it in a box, and then you did something. Yeah. So voting is kind of an idea of freedom, what we don't really have, but that's another topic. But the thing with the conservative movements in Europe is very interesting because we lost our patriotism a while ago in Germany. France was really high with their patriotism, and Italy too. But through the whole European Union Parliament idea, we lost that because the idea of the EU was actually a trademark, make trademarks easier in Europe. It was never planned to be this little umbrella government to make a European Union like the USA. Like, we are still officially sovereign countries, but that's not what's going to happen in Europe right now. So that's kind of a very interesting point to see that we are not actually sovereign and sovereignty, and we have our own government, and it should be Germany first, it should be France first, but actually it's not. Like, we have European Union, the parliament stands higher than the German parliament, and they can bring their new laws in, and then everyone has to suck it up and say, oh, okay, but yeah, we are in the European Union. And having this people in other countries said, no, we don't want to do that. So they started being more conservative again. They start, hey, we like the old values. And for other countries, it's easier to do that because they don't have this guilt. So when the Germans do that, even we had this case in the European Parliament with the conservative group. Like there are some conservative, like the Conservative Party of Italy, then France, Germany, and Spain, and they work together. They have their little group there. And they said, because we had one German member of the European Parliament who was actually our candidate who everyone liked. That was the reason so many young people voted for the alternative for Germany, Mr. Krah. And he said something what Le Pen didn't like. And she said the AfD would not be a part of our group and lose the majority in the parliament to get their ideas through if Mr. Krah still be a bigger candidate or has a seat in the parliament. So even in our conservative bubble, we don't really like the conservative of the Germans. Like, we can be a little bit conservative as long and love our country and be patriotic as long as fits for the other countries in Europe. And that's kind of a hypocrisy, in my opinion. Like, even waving a German flag, we have right now the soccer championship in Europe. It's in Germany, and they changed our anthem for that to be open for multicolor, like for diversity. So
multiculturalism is the highest value that you need to spread, right?
Yeah. So they deleted the word freedom out of our anthem in one game when they sang it and put diversity in it. And like, okay,
really, who did that?
Wow.
Yeah, they did that, and we should be okay with
who was it that made that decision?
Oh, the FIFA and probably some of the politicians who advise the FIFA, and because we had a lot of stabbings from refugees out of the Middle East, especially Afghanistan. And so the acceptance of those people is decreasing in our country very radically. So they had to show the world, hey, we are a very open country. Still, everyone gets stabbed, but yeah. That's a psyops. That's illusion. We create this idea of safety, and everyone has to be happy and watch bread and circuses.
Right.
There's a thread I want to pull on that you had mentioned in your intro of, you said you were on an Antifa hit list.
Mm-hmm.
What exactly does that mean? Is that like a kill list? Is that what does that mean? Like, what is the thoughts around there?
So I don't really know if they really would come to kill me, but you have to think the Antifa in Germany. So the Antifa was founded in Germany in the 1920s,
right? And
it's not like only those pink hair colored funny little guys or women who yell and wear masks and then go away. No, in Germany they're like a little militia. We don't have militias in Germany, but you can see or make the idea of a militia with the Antifa, and they have their strategies. And the thing was that it was not a big problem for me to be on that list. It was more the problem that they put my daughter there, and they followed my daughter, they followed me. And every time when we were I was reporting from protests, I had a group of people following me, and if they would got me into a single aisle where I was alone, I don't know if I would get out there, if they stabbed me but I can't say that that it was a dead list, but they declared it as a hit list. But I don't know what they would do.
Yeah, because that's one of the things I think in America, a lot of what we think of with Antifa is we just think they rose up in 2016 as a resistance to Trump, and they're just kind of this silly college group that is like, they really care about the country, but there's a deep history that goes back a century, really, of this group in Europe because of all the, the fascism versus communism and all that history and the wars and stuff that's going on. So like I think that's very important for people to recognize that this isn't just some random group that spawned. There's like a deep history that exists there. And so, and especially if we're talking about Europe, it's probably way more intense than it is here, right?
Yep. So you have to think that even the German government, right now we have the Green Party. There is one sitting member from the Green Party in the European Parliament. She was an active member of the Antifa. And she was part of riots in Berlin. And there are parts of Berlin where even the police doesn't go because it's
really?
Ruled by the Antifa. And this lady, she even waved the Antifa flag in the European Parliament. And there was one picture what AfD politician took, and he published it, but this picture suddenly disappeared because it doesn't fit anymore that a sitting member of the parliament was a member of the Antifa, but they are. And there are even speeches in the German parliament where they say, yeah, we have to start funding the Antifa because the Antifa is an NGO. The Antifa is not a freaking NGO. But this is how Germany or Europe is rotten. I really have to say rotten from inside to say, hey, yeah, the Antifa are actually an NGO. They help us to fight right extremism, right wingers. Like, this is crazy. To saying, hey, I'm proud to be German, that declares you to an enemy of the Antifa.
Do you think that those people that would advocate for such a thing, such as funding Antifa to fight right-wing extremism, that would, try to ban fertilizer or, create these ridiculous climate policies that put people under tremendous stress from high energy costs and that are really putting a lot of pressure on people's everyday lives. Do you think that they are overstepping, that they've kind of been exposed at this point? Because it doesn't feel like any of this is very covert at all. It's all very in our faces, and it almost seems like it's so far that people are waking up to it in much larger numbers than they ever have before, and much more quickly. And it's causing a lot of these populist movements. So people are just watching this stuff happen and going, I can't believe my eyes right now. This is actually happening, not in my country. Do you think that those people that are pushing these kind of policies are being too forward with it, and it's sort of backfiring on them right now?
Oh, I think they're just freaking arrogant, and they think, what will they do? Like in Germany, we don't have a Second Amendment, and in Germany, when you are born, you have a contract with the government, and if you are a mother or a father, you have a contract with the government that you are allowed to raise your child, and it's still owned by the government. And if you do something what the government doesn't like what I did, and I didn't let my daughter wear a mask, and I sued the principal, and I didn't really threaten him, but I said, I'm going to sue your ass and you never will see the sun again if you're going to force my daughter again.
It seems like maybe a threat.
It's a bit of a threat.
Kind of, yeah. We are Germans. But the things and we don't have homeschooling. Like, if you don't bring your child to school after 3 days, the police come and take it away and put it into foster care because of child abuse. They tried to take my daughter away because I commit child abuse because I didn't want her to get tested every second day at school to be allowed to go to school because of COVID. And I said, those tests doesn't even tell you if you have a flu or COVID. And
yep.
The thing is, like, in Germany, we are so connected to our government that we are kind of the idea you don't beat the hand what feeds you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people say, yeah, I don't like that. Yeah, I would not want that this happens to my child, but it doesn't happen to me. It just happens to my neighbor. So why should I stand up and get a problem and maybe get fired? That was the same thing with standing up against the COVID mandates. They said, right. Yeah, it's hard. And yeah, it's kind of like Eastern Germany, but I still have my job, and yeah, I don't want to lose it.
It's very.
I don't want to miss my comfort, what I have, because hey, I still have Netflix, I still have a computer, I still have TV.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's very hard for people to.
yeah, so
it's very hard for people to let go of those creature comforts that they have in order to do something risky. And it's very easy to say, oh, I want freedom, but really, actually, I think most people really want safety more than that, right?
Yeah, and that's what they do. Like they sell you safety for freedom, but first they create this scenario that you have to fear for death to easily make you sell your freedom. And you can be very happy as slave. We learned that in COVID. Like, that was slavery. You can't say, in my opinion, it was the kind of slavery. Yeah, you got, in America, you got your stimulus checks. I don't know what you bought with it, but probably, hopefully not only food. Like, there was a country singer who said, oh, I'm going to buy a new shotgun from that. But kind of like, you got money from the state to stay at home for an illusion of fear. And then they even closed your churches. In Germany, we weren't even allowed to sit on a bench in the freaking park. Like, crazy.
They were arresting kids who were out surfing on the beach in California, and people who were out hiking. They put sand in the skate parks, right? You couldn't do anything fun outside, even away from people. It was insane.
And then you had Tiger King on Netflix. That was very.
Oh yeah, that popped off during that time. That was a fun time.
Like everyone likes Joey Exotic, and then the poor guy got into jail, and I don't know if he's still alive or he died on COVID.
I believe he's still in jail.
Yeah. I don't know, but I watched.
I think there was talk of a Trump pardon on him
too. So.
We all watched it. Okay, everyone was talking about it.
One of the areas where it seems like the public is starting to become more aware of the psyops that are on them. People are just becoming more in tune with how governments operate and how much they are getting manipulated. And a lot of that is because of the internet. Like, the internet is kind of this double-edged sword. It can be used poorly, but it can also be used for great benefit for us understanding this. And one of the biggest things that have happened in recent years was Elon's takeover of Twitter. How well do you think things are going when it comes to that being able to be useful for people to see through kind of all the bullshit that's happening in the world?
Like I said before, it's like a weapon. So the internet is a tool. You can use it for good or you can use it for bad. And having Elon Musk freeing Twitter and making to X to let people back on Twitter was a very, very good step. But he still likes Neuralink kind of stuff, like putting a chip in your head, and like transhumanism is kind of cool. And so I don't know how I should take Elon, that he just plays good and gives us the idea of freedom with, hey, you can do anything. But then when you still got to see what gets censored on Twitter. So Twitter is not that free. You can see free porn on Twitter. That's okay. But sometimes you get still deleted for showing police violence in Germany. So there are some cases that the post got deleted for violating X laws, or what you have now in Brazil. They went even for the Congress and said that de Moraes is committing threats against humanity when he makes Twitter to delete the opposition and put people of the opposition in jail and threatens the employees of Twitter. And Elon Musk said, yeah, this will never happen. But when you look now and ask some of those Twitter people who lost their profiles because of that, and they had millions of followers in Brazil to talk about what's happening right now in Brazil, they don't even back. They're not back. So that's the thing.
So it was just lip service from Elon. He said he wouldn't let it happen, but it did happen.
In some
Do you feel like he's controlled opposition, like you mentioned before?
I would not say he couldn't.
It's possible.
There are some areas where it feels like he makes compromises. Like he's like on our side sometimes, but he makes compromises. Like that's the vibe that I pick up from it. But I don't know.
Okay, but the problem is now, where's your red line? At what point you can't do compromises anymore? And I think with free speech, there shouldn't be a compromise. Because when you look into the bubble of the conservative movement, you as libertarians probably are on my side there. Like, I saw a post from a friend of mine where she took a picture of a young woman wearing a hijab and a T-shirt which says "Free Palestine," and she said that she had to get kicked. She should have been kicked out of the restaurant because that's hate speech. And also, you don't have free speech anymore in your country. Like, the right side says, "Oh, we get censorship all the time. We can't say anything about us. The lefties are dictating our free speech, and we're not allowed to say anything." But you don't do that either, or they don't do that either. Like, just sitting there having a T-shirt "Free Palestine." She's not burning any flags. She's not yelling. She wants to start the jihad, or she starts killing people. No, she was just sitting there and said "Free Palestine." Maybe she has family there, or maybe that's
this
her
is
opinion. But this is
it's a huge point of hypocrisy that I think we all see within the American conservative movement, right? Where it's oh yeah, you know, we're absolutely getting censored politically online, and then as soon as there's a movement that's contrary to you know, their affinity to Israel, then of course we need to censor that speech. I mean, I think that is the worst thing to happen to the American conservative movement during, you know, this last, you know, election cycle, and it really has damaged their credibility to me in a lot of ways.
Well, and a lot of it seems generational though too. Like, the younger conservatives seem to be much more on our side of this, while the older conservatives are much more like censor the things around Israel, right? Where the younger conservatives are fighting back against that and pushing back against that. Not all of them, but a lot of them, right?
Yeah, it depends. Like, I was at the We the People conference, right, from Charlie Kirk, and I was filming how Nick Fuentes got kicked out because he was going there, and they didn't let him enter the conference because he is controversial to the belief of questioning why America should listen to AIPAC and Israel. It's not Israel first, it's America first. So that's a point. He has a point. You don't have to agree with everything what he says, but it's a point. You can't say I'm MAGA and America first, and then I listen more to AIPAC, or listen to a one-purpose donor who gives me $5 million or $500 million for my campaign. Says, yeah, but you should give Netanyahu a free pass out of jail for doing anything. Like, that's not how the world works, but it seems like it. So that's why I like when people say, yeah, we are full for freedom of speech. And then you can call them out on, okay, so what do you think about the students who were saying we don't support Israel? And then you can ask, okay, why it was horrible on what happened on the 7th of October, but when you understand the Iron Dome, why didn't they act? Why did the IDF needed 20 hours to get their people in there, their soldiers? Like, every side has a point.
Yeah, they're supposed to be one of the most formidable fighting forces on the planet, and they deal with this on a daily basis. How did that happen?
They see a little red.
We're just asking questions, right?
we're not supposed to ask questions anymore.
So you're not allowed to ask that.
Right. Yeah. Vicky, I want to change gears really quick, because you and I got to chat a little bit about your experience on the southern border of the U.S. And you were doing some really incredible undercover journalism work down there. Can you explain a little bit about what it is you were doing and what that experience is like?
I was now 29 times at the southern border of the United States, since I'm here, since 2021, and I was in Arizona and Texas. And I think I saw mostly everything what you can see, what goes wrong there. I camped in the middle of the night in front of a gap at the wall, and I saw at 4:00 in the morning 83 children unoccupied walking through the desert, waiting that one border patrol hears the sensor and peeping and sends a little car there to check on those children and get them processed. And then I saw I was on a drive with a sheriff and his deputy, and we found a full tire full of fentanyl pills. Then
I just want to back up really 1 second. Did you say a border patrol agent was facilitating these kids coming through the border unaccompanied?
So how it works is the cartels drop them off maybe 2 miles in front of a gap, then they walk through it, and there are sensors in the wall. What probably makes a light blink at the central headquarters at this border section, and then Border Patrol sends a car to find those children, to process them, then bring them to the processing center. And they are totally overwhelmed with the work because it's actually a funny way to say it. So one third of the Border Patrol is actually patrolling your border. 1/3 is babysitting the illegals at the processing centers, and the other third got fired or dropped the job because they didn't want to get vaccinated. So, but you have a lot of IRS agents, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's great. We need more of those,
so
for sure.
That's kind of the irony what you have in your country, but that's in every country, that tax crimes are more important than saving children or saving your country and your border. And so I have a military background, and I look at those gaps a different way, because people say, yeah, it's just a Biden problem, it's a Democratic problem. No, it's a uniparty problem, because when you see who run that state while the border wall was built, mostly Republicans. Like you have in Arizona, you have in Texas, and then when you see where the gaps are, and so there is a nice gap in Sassabee, or near Sassabee, Arizona, and when you follow that gap 10 miles through the desert, you end up in a Catholic refugee camp. And very strange, there are only military-aged men from Venezuela, Ecuador, and Mexico. Like, interesting to see. And when you try to ask questions to those people who bring them water and stuff, you're not allowed to talk to you. Like, that's crazy. And when you follow the way there, you see a lot of camouflage clothes from those coyotes, like carpet shoes to hide your path through the desert. So that's kind of strange, I think. Mm-hmm. And then you say, okay, we run out of gear, that's why there are the gaps. No, you're not run out of gear, because 200 feet there is is another gap. Like, if you would run out of gear, you would have one closed wall, and then you would have a gap because your gear is gone. But you don't just make holes or gaps. So that's a nice story to say, yeah, we couldn't do that because of the water problem when it's raining and stuff. That's totally stupid. But they needed an excuse to make it happen, because everyone gets profit out of human trafficking, smuggling, and the border issue. It's not only the cartels, it's the government too. And it's not only the left government. The left government makes it very obvious, and they're just arrogant, and that makes it even worse that the Republicans are hypocrites and say we want to fight it, but they put a blind eye on it or are involved. So that's even worse.
I would agree. Do you think that if Trump gets elected, he'll actually be able to have some efficacy on this issue?
I hope.
Or is he involved as well?
I hope, but I don't know. Trump needs allies. He probably has lobbyists who maybe talk into his ear to not do it, because he still have a campaign manager who is connected to Pfizer. And we all know that the vaccine didn't really work good. So does he really learn out of his mistakes? I don't know. I think his personality don't allow that. And I hope he will close it. But he can't just say, yeah, Mexico has to do it. No, if you want to close your country, you close your country. And you don't make another country pay for it. It's your decision. You want to close it. But then close it and don't say, hey, but you have to pay it, because Mexico wouldn't pay it. Why should they? They are very happy with not having those rapists, murderers in their country. So.
Yeah, they would just assume they keep going to the U.S., wouldn't they?
Well, a lot of this raises a question too of, Trump came to the LNC and you guys got to see him, and he made a lot of pitches to the libertarians about cabinet members and freeing Ross Ulbricht and all this stuff. Like, there raises a question, not just on this issue, but at large, like his staffing positions. Has he learned his lesson, or is he willing to learn his lesson? Can we trust him to make the correct decisions on the personnel that he puts around him? Or is he going to continue to be, kind of duped everywhere? Because all the times you always hear the conservatives, well, Trump got tricked. Trump got tricked last time. And it's like, well, I would like a president that doesn't get tricked, right? But like, has he maybe sifted through the bad people, and is he going to do well here? Do you have any hopes in that area?
I don't know if I have hope, but you libertarians made him very easily not to stay to his promises with you're promoting your candidate for the POTUS seat. Like, he came to your convention in a very, very weak position and begging you literally in a very Trumpish way, but it was kind of begging to vote him or promote him as your nominee, and then the next day you throw it all away and put your guy in, and nobody from your people really supports him and want to vote for him when it comes to election for the presidency. So you literally gifted him your votes to Trump, and now he says, "Oh, you just even vote me because your guy is not even worth to vote." Like, I don't know.
It was the best gift to Trump, really, is having this guy who's going to peel votes away from Biden more so than anything,
but
right?
That was a kind of a Christmas present what you gave him a little bit early.
It was.
Hey, I would prefer it if you would not implicate us. Okay, neither of us are delegates.
I wasn't even there.
It was not
I'm sorry.
Our responsibility. Although it was an unfortunate outcome, I think, for that strategic reason. Whatever you think of Chase Oliver and his positions, he is going to, I think, be an effective candidate, as Angela McArdle has put it, in peeling votes away from Biden. Obviously, I don't think Biden needs a lot of help peeling votes away. He seems to be doing a good enough job of that on his own. While we're on that topic, any thoughts on the debate last night?
Yeah, that's actually exactly where I wanted to go, because especially there seems to be a lot of psyoping at work here when it comes to all of a sudden we're really worried about Biden's age. It's like what are your thoughts on what you saw last night on the debate?
The debate was like, I don't know, it was very American, like this little soap opera. What you have those old two guys like in the Muppet Show on their little stage yelling at each other and not really focusing what's really going wrong in your country, but blaming each other for doing a bad job, but not coming up with any solutions. And then you have Joe Biden with his freaking open eyes, where you think, oh God, now the demon comes out directly because overdosed a little bit too much with his Adderall or something. I don't know what the doctor did with him, but he did something.
Oh, so I don't know. I saw Dave Smith tweet. He said, "I don't think Joe got the good stuff last night," and I agree. I don't think he did.
I don't know, but yeah.
If that was the good stuff, then he's in way worse shape than any of us ever expected.
Well, and it's one of those weird things where for so long now, like people that are politically in tune, we're like, we think that they're going to try to can Biden, and then they announced the debate, and it's like way earlier than normal and before the conventions and everything, and everybody like, oh, they might be going through with this, and then the debate happens, and like literally right after, all the CNN commentary at class there is just like, I don't think Biden's good for the job. I don't think we can do it. And you're just like, oh, they're actually doing this right now.
Yeah,
it was like weird to watch it in real time.
They need a reason to go on the Democrat conference when they have they actually vote their person who's running for office. So now they have all those Democrats coming together to this fancy convention and say, you saw him. We are really thankful for him, what he did. But this poor old man, there is someone better. Hey, we have Michelle Obama. She's black and she's female. And maybe she's trans. So maybe she would fit in every check what you can check off there. So every minority is happy now. So this is very interesting and very useful for them right now. And
and that would be so wild if she actually did come out as trans. That would just be, I did not have that on my bingo card for 24.
It would make sense with where everything's going right now.
It would be normal. Like you have someone sitting in the Pentagon who plays dog. and wears a dog mask. So
True. I mean, anything is fair game at this point,
not only at the
right?
border.
Yes, it's true. May as well just replace our anthem with all sorts of tropes about diversity and stuff, and just call it good.
We're pretty much there at this point. Oh man.
Yeah. So you watched the RFK debate. What did you think about RFK's performance and sort of his ability to reach what seemed like, I think it was like 6 million viewers?
Yeah,
I thought
6
I saw?
million only watched Kennedy, and 3 million were all together with the mainstream. So that's already says a lot. And I think he did a very good job for being the voice of reason. Like, he listened to all what they said, and he tried not to smile every second time when he was his time to say something.
Tough to do.
But no, he really tried to get solutions there. Like, he was picking up their points, and he brought it together. He made it very clear. And when you come from rain into storm if you vote Trump or Biden. So it doesn't really change anything. It just changed the animal and the color, but the direction of the policy will not change. And he made it very clear with his answers in the debate, and then in his plenary, it was more like that he really tries to find a solution to end the misery of America. And the misery of America, there was he very right, is not going into wars or something, or just pulling out of NATO from 10 to 0, and just like doing the same Afghanistan kind of style, what Trump wants to do, but blames Biden for losing so much equipment and money and people. And he said he wants to use the NATO as it was built as a freedom-bringing organization and ally membership. And I think that's how it should be. And he was not only blaming like the other ones. So I'm not an American citizen. I don't have any right to vote. And but if I would have a chance to vote, I would really think between Trump and Kennedy. And after yesterday, I would give my vote to Kennedy.
Interesting. Very interesting. I've heard people say that they feel like, I mean, there's a lot of baggage around the Kennedy family. Obviously, RFK Jr. is a little bit distant from the family. A lot of his family members are endorsing Biden, or at least they were. I don't know how they're sitting on that issue now.
He's an anomaly in the family right now, right?
He is, but I have heard him described as sort of, maybe potentially sort of this controlled opposition, right? This idea of, a relief valve for a lot of really discontented Democrats and even Republicans, libertarians as well. Obviously, he came to the LNC and sought the nomination, didn't get it. But you see authenticity in him, or do you see any points where you could be like, well, I could see him maybe being a little bit of a wolf in sheep's clothing in these ways?
What I don't like is he's too much pro-Israel, but that's like Biden and Trump also. So, but he's the only one who actually talks about the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room in America is that your government makes your people ill and sick with poisoning your environment, with poisoning your food. Like, there are so many things forbidden in my country, what is in your food, that would not even pass any tests in Europe, what you can put in your children's mouth. And then you have all this addiction with pills, and you have a pill for everything. That's crazy. In America, you can get a Smartie for everything to cure everything, and it makes you just more addicted. And he is the only person who actually really wants to change that. And I think that's how you can make it happen, is if you have a very healthy society who is not dependent on the government for being healthy, because that's not what they want.
Yeah. It's very true. That's very true. Healthy people are bad customers for big pharma.
And with environment. So I'm not a climate change believer. Like, I think there is times in our climate which is more hot, and then you have ice, like ice ages. But I'm totally for clean water. I don't want to be afraid to have fluorides in my water and get Alzheimer's or something only because this company doesn't want to pay how to deal with their waste anymore. Like in America, what I see, the problem is you only live in extremes. Like, oh, Kennedy is a climate change cultish person. No, he is not. He's fighting for the environment, and I think there is only one planet, and there are I don't know how many million or billion people live on this planet. It's not only America, and I think we have a right to have a clean planet also. And it's not that he wants to start putting everywhere windcraft plantation or something like what we have in Europe, or start, oh, now you have to get out of nuclear energy. So we have the crazy cultish Greens in our country. So I can say Kennedy has common sense in there. For sure, he has stuff what I don't agree with. And maybe that can be a controlled opposition side, yeah. And maybe it can be to get, he says so much good things that he take all the voters away from Trump. So there is only people who vote for Biden or for Michelle Obama who will ever be the candidate for the Democrats. That can be. But what I think should America start is stop just think about the box and what the government wants you to think about, and that's the two-party system. There is maybe a good thing in risking something in voting a third opinion or an independent, because you have a lot of good opinions in the Libertarian Party. Like, I think you are the actually ones who come together and talk about, because you have so many ideas, and you have from one extreme to the other extreme, and you have the grayish people too. Like, I think people in America should start not voting out of comfort, and this is what they are doing since decades. It's called voting out of comfort. Oh, my family always voted Democrat, always voted Republican. How dare I started voting different?
Yeah. Well, I think that's very true. We do need to find the courage to vote for something that actually means something different. I think we're finding ourselves drawing closer and closer to discomfort, right? We've got rampant inflation. We've got a wide open southern border. We've got a lot of things that are happening from sort of the base layer of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Our essential like necessities that are starting to be challenged. That maybe there's enough of an impetus in the next decade or two that people really start to look for a real viable alternative. I can only hope so. I mean, obviously, we've been voting third party for a long time, and obviously, voting, like you said, is just putting a slip of paper in a box. What is that actually doing for you on the national level? Maybe not as much as we would like to think it is. So it's obviously important that we get involved and we get on the ground and we do things like you're doing, independent journalism. Putting yourself out there, putting yourself at risk to expose what's going on in the world, and we appreciate you for doing that. I think this has been an awesome interview, Vicky, and thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you online?
So you can find me on X. It's Vicky Ritcher, USA, in one word, like Victory, India, Charlie, Kilo, York, Romeo, India, Charlie, Hotel, Tango, Echo, Romeo, USA. Sorry, that's the
perfect
soldier in me who puts out the native
the phonetic alphabet.
And we'll put your links and everything down in the description below as well.
Absolutely.
To your Substack too. I saw you have a Substack
too. So I write a lot in English. So I'm sorry if this English is not college level, but I write a lot of opinion pieces in my Substack. So that's the part where I put my opinion. So it's filtered. Not that much filtered information, but it has my opinion. But I always declare that this is my opinion piece.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And Vicky, are you going to be at Freedom Fest?
I'm looking forward to go to Sin City. I'm already...
Have you been before?
Yes, I was there 3 times, and I told me this time you're not going to play blackjack.
Stay away from the blackjack table. You heard it here first. We will be at Freedom Fest as well, so it'll be fun to run into you again. Vicky, thanks so much for joining us. We'd love to do this again sometime.
Yeah, this was awesome.
Whenever you can. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Human Reaction. Please be sure to like, follow, subscribe, and give us a review on your podcast platform of choice. And if you want to become a member and support the show financially, check out humanreactionpod.com.